Good morning, everyone. Hope you can hear me okay. Welcome to our exclusive breakfast event. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brad Park, and I'm the President and CEO of United Way Halton Hamilton. It's my pleasure to welcome you here today. You stand among a select few as our strongest and best community leaders. Your philanthropic values and belief in United Way are the reason we brought you together this morning. Next week, we'll be officially launching our 2020 campaign. And before we do that, we wanted to bring you together to provide a snapshot and maybe a mini State of the Union report back to you. To begin, I'd like to acknowledge the land on which United Way Halton Hamilton resides is situated upon traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wyandot, the Mississaugas of New Credit First Nation, and the Haudenosaunee Six Nations. The territory is mutually covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and the Ojibwe and other allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Today, this is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community on their territory. Today, we gather from the security of our homes or our places of work. We're enjoying the comfort of our coffees, knowing that our pantries are filled with food and that our furnaces will soon fill our homes with warmth. Yet we're fully aware this is not the case for thousands of friends and neighbors. Our mission has always been to help the people and places who need the help most, to reduce the opportunity gap between those facing impossible challenges and those who are not. This is something we work on tirelessly every single day. I'm sure you can imagine that as a result of COVID-19, more people are now on the edge of crisis, facing significant barriers such as poverty, mental illness, and isolation. Individuals and families have been pushed to the limits, and the social sector is being stretched beyond its capacity to serve them. We also know that while our sector is being stretched, there will be a plethora of social supports that will be needed once government subsidies subside. And the trickle effect of the pandemic are only now starting to show their impact, with many agencies struggling to keep their doors open. At United Way, it's been a long, challenging summer. When the pandemic hit, your United Way immediately set up an emergency fund that raised over $500,000. The federal government selected United Way because of our knowledge and deep connections at the local level to allocate their funds to our communities. The team here worked tirelessly to allocate close to $3 million in both federal and local funds that were desperately needed to ensure that our community had critical frontline supports in place to keep our most vulnerable safe through this crisis. And while those funds were a critical lifeline this summer, life is increasingly stressful for many individuals, families, and seniors. Emergency needs and priorities continue to evolve, and we know recovery and rebuilding will take months and likely years. So what are we seeing in our community as a result of COVID-19? Well, many agencies continue to experience the increasing demand when providing essential services such as housing and residential supports and food. Many of our agencies are working remotely and are in the process of adapting services so they can serve clients, whether it's through wellness checks or by providing emergency food and supplies. The reality is, we know that local programs and agencies are worried. They're uncertain as to what the future holds. Essentially, things can get a lot worse before the community rebuilds from this. People are worried. They're worried about their health, their incomes and layoffs, and they're worried about the economy. And although we are responding to the crisis by investing today, to help local programs adjust and pivot. We know that more people are going to be living on the edge. And although we've already distributed millions of dollars of federal emergency funding locally, I can't stress this enough. These emergency funds are short-term and temporary. They're a Band-Aid fix to a long-term problem. That's why your United Way is completely focused on rallying the community so that we can rebuild. And in order to rebuild, programs need stable, long-term funding. So I'm going to take a moment and introduce our first speaker. And I'm going to introduce you to Jazzy Hundal, who is our Director of Resource Development, who looks after our individual giving program. Jazzy's going to walk you through some trends and facts that are specifically impacting the charitable sector as a result of this pandemic. Jazzy, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Brad. And good morning, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you this morning as a new director leading our community and major giving program. Now more than ever, we are grateful to our partners, donors, and volunteers for their remarkable generosity. As we all continue to navigate these uncertain times, thank you for joining us as we uncover insights into how COVID-19 is impacting the overall charitable sector and fundraising. Unprecedented, uncharted, uncertain. These are just a few words to describe the pandemic and its fallout. And given the degree of uncertainty, it's hard to know exactly what this will mean for Canadian charities and their fundraising. Imagine Canada, our country's governing body for the charitable sector, did some financial modeling in forecasting the impact of physical distancing on fundraising with 6 months. It was likely charities were projected to lose more than $15 billion nationally this year, and with approximately 200,000 jobs lost. There was a survey that went out to 1,400 charities back in May, which showed that the pandemic significantly declined the financial health of organizations, a size and a scope we have never seen before. And these were results of just 3 months in the pandemic. These numbers are staggering, and for this sector, that type of loss and shift is incredibly difficult to rebound from. Some of the challenges that charities and your United Way are navigating and pivoting from include the loss of funds and donor engagement, in-person events, and face-to-face donor meetings. These include some of the fundraising efforts which comes from live events that just can't happen right now. We are experiencing gift deferrals and pledge losses, and we are anticipating a tough road ahead. Almost 75% of our revenue comes from our workplace campaigns, where employees are also suffering the impacts of the crisis. Our fundraising model for major gifts, which traditionally has been focused on face-to-face or human interaction, has seen a significant shift as well. As a result, we are reimagining what supporting our donors' philanthropy looks like. With the possibility of a second wave, which could further impact workplace campaigns or our fundraising efforts, we're being purposeful in planning in how we will recover. So as you can see, there is an essence of vulnerability we are facing. But what is certain about the future is that we will get through this together. And thank you for being a part of the collective responsibility to ensure the well-being of our community and the well-being of more than 129 local programs supported by you. Major gifts in particular represent a significant portion of our overall campaign, and these vital dollars are the lifeline to more than 200,000 people across our great communities. Our promise to you, your United Way, will continue to look at the economics from a macro level, to understand it, and use that information to inform our decisions and our strategy development. We will share this information with our fellow friends across the charitable sector, with the goal to ensure a strong social safety net. We will continue to invest in the highest impact programs where the need is the greatest, and we will report back to you on that impact. We will continue to keep our closest and most influential philanthropists, such as yourself, informed of the environment, challenges, and opportunities that lie ahead of us. Your support is invaluable and influential in supporting our most vulnerable members of our communities. I look forward to the opportunity to work with you to ensure we meet those needs. Thank you everyone for listening, and I'll pass it over to you, Brad.
Thank you, Jazzy. All right, I am going to introduce our next speaker, who is Mike Mikulak, our Vice President of Community Impact. Now, many of you know Mike and have heard from Mike, but today he's going to provide a little bit more insight into what we're seeing on the ground and what agencies are telling us about what gaps still exist out there. So Mike, over to you.
Okay, so someone's gonna have to turn on my video. I'm unmuted, but I can't start my video for some reason. There we go, start my video. I think it's coming on. Excellent, okay, thank you. So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning. As Brad has already started, I think never has our value really been clearer. And I think we talk a lot about frontline workers, and from healthcare to education to social services. I think the importance of the social safety net has really become extremely clear and crucial. And I know personally for me, this really hit home right at the beginning of the pandemic when I walked into a grocery store, saw the empty shelves, and realized for a big portion of the people we serve, that's their daily experience. And I think for a lot of people, as we're looking out and we're seeing some of the trends that COVID has revealed, it's not necessarily that they're new, it's that they've revealed sort of structural problems that we've been facing for many years and are now sort of being forced to look head on. And so this is a global pandemic. It affects everybody, but it doesn't affect everybody equally. And I think what we're seeing and what the research is showing is that people living in low income, racialized members of the community, people with precarious employment, these are the people who don't have the same kinds of ability to respond to this crisis. And again, the research is sort of coming out, and it's telling us what we already know. In particular, precarity and those in the sort of in the gig economy, younger people in working in restaurants and other sort of entertainment industries, they've really been hit hard by this. Across Ontario, over 1 million people have been have lost their jobs. Some of them have regained them, and about 2.2 million people have had their hours affected or reduced. So the impact of this has been really huge. Unemployment is now at 12%. This is a historic high. We haven't seen something like that for 20 years. And for a lot of people who are already on the edge, maybe living from paycheck to paycheck, they're coming to some of the services that our agencies provide for the very first time. And we know that the income gap and that income is very much correlated with a whole bunch of social determinants of health. So for people in our community, not having access to that income is going to lead to higher hospitalization rates. It's going to lead to more susceptibility to COVID and other illnesses. And social isolation in particular, we're 7 months into this crisis. For a lot of people, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to feeling disconnected from their communities, all of these really play out in profound ways. And we're going to be seeing the impact of this for years to come. And a lot of our programs, especially those serving people with mental health issues, are talking about this as a kind of a shadow pandemic. And we're really going to have to rally in order to do this. I know a lot of you have either kids or grandkids. Just the stress of going back to school. My kids went back to school a couple of days ago. I'm wondering what's going to happen in the next month, right? And that stress, when you're facing so many other stressors, can really lead to sort of breakdowns. And as a result, we've really been rallying here at the United Way. As Brad mentioned, we launched an emergency community response fund, and we've been sort of trying to support our agencies, everything from offering flexibility to checking in with them on a monthly basis. We launched an ED support group, really ramped up our communications with our agencies, and really tried to understand in a very granular way what's going on. As Jassy said, 40% of nonprofits are seeing an increase in demand, and many of them have had to lay staff off during that same time. This isn't a sector that's been encouraged to carry big, large amounts of reserves to get them through these tough times. So they're really sort of at the same time, they're facing sort of a perfect storm. And thankfully, we've been able to rally. We've put in a lot of money into the community in a very, very short period of time. To give you a little bit more of a granular snapshot, we reviewed 138 applications with almost $5 million of requests to us in the last couple of months. 88 projects have been funded, many of which are not part of that 124 agencies that we currently support. These are new agencies providing that. We've distributed almost $3 million and have actually been able to target some of that to face people, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, to address some of those issues facing racialized communities. So about 17 programs have actually been targeting those people, and we've helped people with everything from basic needs provisioning, like food banks, to access to technology and improving programs. So this has been a real important trend. It's hard going virtual. It's not easy to pivot that quickly. And I think, beyond just mobilizing the dollars, we've seen the power of connection that the United Way can provide. So early on, we actually were just before COVID hit, we were in the process of launching a community donation warehouse. And the timing could not have been better. So we had partnered with Siemens Canada, for example, and they provided us with over 300 refurbished laptops. And right around the time that that COVID hit, we were able to get these laptops out into our agencies, into the community's hands. And this was crucial. Imagine you're at home, your kids are now no longer at school, and all of a sudden their teacher is saying, well, we need you to log into this Zoom account, or we need you to access this. And you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have a laptop, you don't have the technology. That's impossible. It's impossible to do that. And so we were really pleased to work with agencies like Hippie Halton, who were able to provide a loaning program for technology, and Empowerment Squared, who were able to get that out and really reduce the stress level on those parents, because they were able to actually get that technology into the hands of their kids and allow them to connect, to provide, to be able to connect with their peers and with their teachers. And that was really transformational. And the community donation warehouse similarly was able to do things that, again, during these stressful times, a lot of agencies would not have been able to do. So in a very short period of time, we've actually gotten out $123,000 of donations to a number of different, to about 12 different agencies. And this has varied from ukuleles going out and coffee machines going out to Community Living Burlington to help support programming, to a really touching example of E. Fry, who was able to work with their clients and furnish 2 apartments for women coming out of human trafficking and out of the justice system. These are women who have experienced extreme trauma and need a safe, comfortable place to live in. So furnishing it with nice things is really important. It's not actually a luxury. It's a necessity, because these things can trigger them. And then sort of lastly, I would say the thing that's been on everybody's mind, PPE. This has been an absolute, incredible challenge for a lot of our agencies, even to access PPE. We were hearing stories from agencies like Wesley who were going out and buying dollar store gowns because they could not find anything. And these were programs that could not shut down. They could not go virtually. They're serving some of the most vulnerable people in our community. And so for them, it's the safety of their staff, it's the safety of their clients, And that's unacceptable. And so we heard from a lot of our agencies that not only could they not find it, but they were paying up to 400% more for the PPE that they were accessing before. So we launched a bulk PPE purchasing program, and this has been incredible. We've done 4 rounds. And so far, we've put out about $183,000 in purchased PPE. So this is just in the bulk purchase. So people have the money to purchase this. And to about 70 agencies who have collectively benefited from this, and about $115,000 in donations targeting this specific program. So it's really been incredible. It's mobilized the community. We've had donations coming in from actually healthcare providers who have PPE, but it doesn't quite meet their standards. It's still very good. It just can't meet the standards of the hospital. So we've actually been able to take some of those pallets and put it into our donation warehouse. And I think ultimately what this shows is that the value of investing with the United Way, our network of support, our evidence-based decision-making, our sort of ability to see the forest for the trees and make the most of your philanthropic dollar. We're always working to improve because we know our neighbors need us the best. They need us to be the best we can be. And whether it's making those kind of strategically informed investments in behaviorally informed financial empowerment initiatives, or exploring really promising new models like social prescription that connect our primary healthcare with our social service agencies, we're always out there looking for the best way to invest your dollars so that the most people can improve their lives and be supported either during these kinds of crises or frankly in the days in between. So we're always really looking on how to turn that social safety net into a trampoline. And we're very grateful for your support, for your continued support. And you know, as we're looking forward, I'm hopeful that we can rally as a community and ensure that more people don't fall through these cracks. So at this point, we asked we're going to move into the Q&A portion. So I have some questions here for Brad that he will hopefully be able to answer. So the first question that we have here is, how did the United Way respond to the COVID crisis specifically?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Well, I think everyone knows United Way is there during times of stability, but we're also very present during times of crisis, right? And when the pandemic hit, our network of agencies was on the front line of the community response, right? Since March, you heard it earlier, we've invested over $2.6 million in rapid response emergency funding to local agencies. And those funds really met the most urgent needs in the early stages of the pandemic. So we partnered with the local government and our network of agencies to make sure there were no gaps in essential services or emergency needs that were unmet. We really acted as that trusted partner to administer those federal emergency funds. So we continue to provide ongoing flexible funding to our agencies, which is so critical and key right now as they've had to pivot themselves. But we're making sure that they have the resources they need to meet that rising demand. The agencies have just been amazing. They've been delivering food hampers and meals to people that are experiencing homelessness. They've connected isolated seniors to a friendly voice by launching remote supports. They've launched remote mental health supports. It's been incredible to see the community rally around this. And we're also really proud that we were able to expand our financial empowerment program, which helps low-income individuals complete tax returns and access emergency government benefits. But we were able to expand that this year into Halton from Hamilton, and now we've got that encompassing both regions, which is something that is really good that came out of this.
Yeah, that's that one alone. We just found out has filed almost 300 people to $1.2 million in taxes returned since COVID started. So sort of a great example there.
Yeah.
what does the COVID-19 crisis mean for the United Way? You know, we talk a lot about the agency and the impact, but what does it mean for us in the long term?
Yeah, and Jazzy touched on this earlier, right? Because it is already having an impact on our fundraising efforts. Amidst all of this economic uncertainty, we are seeing gift deferrals and donation loss, and we're anticipating a tough road ahead. Jassy mentioned almost 75% of our revenue comes from workplace campaigns, and many employees are suffering the impacts of the crisis as well. There's been layoffs, there's been company closures. So that is challenging us for sure, because that's the biggest piece of our model. Some of our revenue also comes from live events, those galas, those tournaments, those house tours, things where we'd use to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue. Those events can't happen right now. We are unable to gather. So that is having an impact on us, and we're not sure when those funds will start to trickle back or when those meetings will be allowed to take place. But all of this is threatening the funds that we invest to support in our communities every month. It's threatening the resiliency of our network, right? And that network's already stretched and struggling with the demand that they're having to face. So the support that we get from our individual and corporate partners that provide that critical funding to address the long-term recovery of our community's social safety net. So we just have to make sure that our agency network is here for tomorrow, so that those services aren't only available in the time of crisis, but as we emerge and rebuild from this, we want to make sure that those supports are available to everyone in our communities.
Yeah. So I think one of the things on a lot of people's mind is why are you still asking for donations if we've received such significant donations from the federal government?
Yeah, I have been questioned with that already. People are just, you know, they're impressed that so much money was put into our communities so fast. But I can't emphasize enough that those dollars were for immediate needs. They were for frontline services to make sure that they were up and running and available during the crisis. So those funds came, we allocated them into the community, and they were for those immediate needs. And now we are looking at raising funds to support the programs that our donors understand are needed on an annual basis. They are needed to keep those programs and doors open. I mentioned earlier that the trickle-down effect of the pandemic is starting to hit now, while companies are seeing the outcomes after some of those subsidies are dried up. So right now we need to get funds raised so we can make sure those programs are there in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it's extremely expensive to make these pivots for a lot of our agencies. So you see that in how the bulk of the funds have gone to really letting them do that pivot. And that's not regular operations, right?
Yeah.
So what will United Way do if a second wave of COVID hits? How will it respond?
Well, we are diligently monitoring trends and projections regarding a possible second wave of COVID-19. None of us know if or when that will happen. But because of our close connection to the agencies and local programs, we have a strong pulse on the needs and also the accompanying risks that go along with that, right? But we're fully tuned into the community, into the business community, the labor community. We have strong partnerships with economists via our relationships with the financial sector. And although no one can predict the future, we've already deployed a pivot that opens up greater flexibility with current fund recipient programs, which was key to allowing them to keep their operations moving. But we'll be diligent in monitoring future needs so that we can respond quickly and adapt accordingly. Our focus will always be on the gaps, the greatest needs, and the areas of impact.
Okay, so I think that was the final question that we had at this point. So thank you, Brad, for answering all of those.
All right, well, thank you, Mike. I think at this point in time, I have the pleasure of introducing another special guest to the webinar. It's a pleasure to introduce John Chisholm, who is a partner and CEO of SB Partners. And he is this year's United Way Halton Hamilton Campaign Cabinet Chair. So as a partner and CEO of SB Partners, Burlington's award-winning full-service accounting firm, John is a strong advocate of employee enrichment and community support. John has a gift for giving back and serving the community. He's proven to be a community leader and an influencer. He's been a member of the United Way campaign for many years. And I gotta say, he took on the toughest role of campaign chair that I have ever had to ask somebody to take on. And he took it on with open arms and said, yeah, I'm there for the community. I wanna be a part of this. How can I help? So John, it's a pleasure to have you with us. I'm gonna welcome you to the webinar.
Well, thank you, Brad. And I couldn't resist your charm. That's the reality. And as you did mention, I've had the really the honor and privilege to participate as a volunteer on the campaign cabinet for a number of years. And I do reflect in the time that we were able to share a coffee together at the same table back in February when we talked about the campaign, and not kind of being fully aware of the onslaught of the impact that COVID-19 did have on our community. And we all know how significant that impact has been in our community, and the social determinants of health that are the reality as a result of the pandemic. The reliance and need in the community we've seen across the spectrum in Canada's resulted in a 42% increase in need as a result of the pandemic. So that need in our community is definitely real. So I do want to thank everyone for being here this morning and sharing your time, your morning coffee with us this morning as we talk to you a little bit about the campaign and where we are as we prepare for the launch. And you are true leaders in making change happen in our community. So I thank you for that. So we've connected as part of the campaign cabinet. Part of our main role is to connect with all the workplace programs that occur in our community through the fall. Many are launching through September, October. So the campaign cabinet kind of works to build that momentum and launch the campaign. And we know that United Way plays an important role in supporting employee morale and engagement with our corporate partners by connecting them with the community and the United Way mission. And our team at United Way, the staff team, has done just a tremendous job to pivot to offer a virtual campaign toolkit for our volunteers so we can put our best foot forward in executing hundreds of workplace campaigns in the coming months. And I think we've already heard the amount of that annual campaign that does come from those workplace campaigns, and they are under some stress and pressure with the impact of COVID and the economic fallout that is occurring. We will be raising awareness across our community to launch the campaign, and we thank you for sharing within your networks the message, the important message of the work and need of the United Way. So again, on behalf of the campaign cabinet, which I'm always awed by the level of commitment by that campaign cabinet, their resilience and ability to pivot and move with change. They are exceptional executive leaders in our community, and I'm so privileged to be able to work with them on this campaign. One thing is clear: our community is resilient, our neighborhoods want to give back and support, and that they see the need at the ground level. We have all been impacted one way or another through this pandemic, and we're so aware of the impact of those most vulnerable in our community, and we're all responding to that. So as our largest supporters, I'm pleased to share in advance of the reveal of the 2020 campaign goal that this year we will be striving to raise $10 million to provide stability and recovery. And I think, as Brad has already addressed, there is some emergency funding, but that is a result that the need was so immediate through the impact of COVID, that those emergency funds were just really there to do some short-term stability and get us through a tunnel. The need of the agencies and programs that we support through this campaign is that stability of funding, so that they continue to ensure that those programs and services are offered to the community that require it so much. So this is our opportunity. This is our opportunity as a community to really come together and demonstrate our ability to respond to this need. This is history. This is history in the making. This pandemic will go down in history, and it will reflect on how we responded to the need in our community. So I'm so confident that we will be able to demonstrate our compassion, our empathy, our kindness, and our generosity to meet that need. And as our most, we're striving to manage uncertainty right now. So we need you, our community leadership, to support us, because you are the largest supporters and you set the tone of support for this year's campaign. So what my ask of you is to please come forward and pledge early in support of the campaign. We can't do this without you. There's in the old African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We can't do this without you. And so I'm asking for your support, and for your support early, so we can ensure that we're able to adapt and adopt the campaign to hit that very important target of $10 million. So again, Brad, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and it has been very rewarding, and I hope that the same experience holds, and I'm confident it does for all of those that are committing their time, effort, and talent and treasury to the campaign cabinet. So thank you once again, and thanks everyone for joining us this morning.
Thank you, John, and thank you for your leadership. I'm excited to see where we take this campaign this year. So everyone, as we come to a close, I can't reinforce enough that although this global health crisis has resulted in distancing, it has at the same time united our community. Physical distancing doesn't mean we have to stop caring for others. While physical distancing is needed during the pandemic, increasing our capacity for social service supports and ensuring that vulnerable people in our community don't slip through the cracks during these difficult days is critical. Agencies need stability and flexibility more than ever. And because of leaders like you, we can stand together, stand united, and support our frontline workers and social service agencies, the real heroes in our communities. As this health crisis unfolds, it serves as a wake-up call to each and every one of us that we are all vulnerable, that we are all deeply connected to one another, and that we have the power to lift each other up and build community in even the most challenging moments. Today's special because it gives us the opportunity to recognize and thank you, our most generous supporters. And it also is an opportunity to provide you with the insight into our community just 1 week before we kick off our campaign for 2020. So thank you for being a part of a movement that is changing lives and that is needed now more than ever. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Please be safe, and I hope you're all well. Bye for now.